It'd be pretty awesome to be able to shut people up with some simple religious imagery and some organ music. The Brides of Dracula is pretty much a direct sequel to The Horror of Dracula, which is also known as simply Dracula in the UK. And this one was released between The Horror of Dracula and Dracula Prince of Darkness, which I have reviewed already. So this is the second part, following pretty much mostly Van Helsing's perspective and point of view after his defeat of Dracula in the first film. And starting off with, this one stars Peter Cushing, Yvonne Menlor, and David Peel. And the film starts with Yvonne Menlor's character named Marianne Danielle, and she is a teacher on her way to a French teaching school in, I believe, the UK area, from France, from Paris. And she is going to be teaching French at the school, and this pretty much starts off like your typical Hammer film. You start to notice patterns, at least I do, with the Hammer films, especially the ones based on classic monsters such as Dracula and like the werewolf movies and all that. And so she goes along, she stops in this little village pub or village restaurant, and she meets this woman. This woman's name is Madame la Baronne Meinster, and she is the headmaster of this castle called the Meinster Castle. And she, of course, invites Marianne to stay the night because Marianne is tired, and this haunting, luxurious-looking castle, at the peak of a mountain. Your typical classic Hammer tropes and classic vampire tropes start off escalating, basically. And basically, you kind of know what's coming right from the beginning, as I was saying, with the patterns of Hammer horror cinema. So she goes to stay at the castle. During dinner, Madame la Baronne mentions that she has a son, and her son suffers this strange illness and has been suffering for a while, and she's basically caring for him in the castle. Whereas later on, Marianne discovers the son, because the son is basically chained up in his room and is unable to come out, and he's persuading Marianne and kind of taunting Marianne in a sense to kind of let him go, but Marianne, she obviously feels sorry for the guy because she thinks this woman's crazy, which she definitely comes across as being, but she doesn't realize that there's a reason why he's being, kept in his room or whatever, in bondage. But obviously Marianne ends up letting him free, and this entails a whole a whole slew of incidents that happen in the village and the surrounding areas. So then we cut to Marianne running off into the forest. She passes out in exhaustion, and Peter Cushing, or Van Helsing, played by Peter Cushing, finds her, and it just goes from there. So she finally makes it to the school, and Peter, or I keep saying Peter Cushing, the actor, Van Helsing, basically continues on his mission, trying to discover this illness which is going around, which he considers the undead. I wrote it down. Cult of the undead. So this whole vampirism he starts to give a name to as the cult of the undead, and he goes hunting these vampires because he knows there's more of them after Dracula's death, and he stumbles across the same woman, this Madame la Baronne, and he realizes that her son is on the loose, and all these other female vampires are being brought back to life. There's actually this really cool resurrection scene where this woman is raising one from the dead, and she's like, just a little more push, just a little push and you've got it. And it's funny because it kind of symbolizes a birth, obviously. Just a little push, and her hand starts coming out of the dirt, and it's a really neat scene. It's really classic looking and classic feeling, and the undead rising from the grave is very, with the music and everything. That's another thing I loved about this film. The music is definitely, I'd say, better than Horror of Dracula, and even Dracula Prince of Darkness. The The music is very like more vibrant in this film. It's more noticeable. I don't know. It's definitely unique in this one compared to the other Dracula films, and I definitely took notice to it, especially with the organ and the high energy fullness of the score. Very memorable for sure. So that's a huge positive for this one, as well as obviously the sets and the atmosphere. It's just bar none. You can't beat Hammer atmosphere when it comes to lore and stuff like that. Like the atmosphere of Hammer films is like right on top of the of the classics of cinema. Comes from Hammer for sure. So yeah, he's on the hunt for these female vampires, and once he comes in contact with the Baron Meinster, which is the main guy, who kind of takes the place, not takes Dracula's place, but he takes the villain's place in this film. And it's basically Baron versus Van Helsing, and Van Helsing's presence skyrockets in this one. It just takes a double and triple like personality in him with his heroism and his symbolism and his character. He just pushes the envelope a lot further, and the battle sequences between him and Baron are just as good as with Dracula. I mean, you miss Dracula. That's the one thing that they kind of took a risk on this one, not bringing Dracula back. But at the same time, they kind of built on the climax of the first film and went with this one. As for the title, too, Brides of Dracula, it's not. It's kind of a loose title because you can consider them Brides of Dracula because the cult of the undead curse is amongst all of them from Dracula, obviously, but there's no direct ties from the brides and from this woman, Madame La Baronne, who is Baron's mother, and as well as the other brides, some which come from the school, some that actually Marianne ends up knowing and befriending, and then they end up cursed, and Marianne has no idea what's going on, obviously. But luckily there's Van Helsing, who's the infamous vampire slayer who basically knows everything about vampires. He's like the genius on like zombies and zombie invasions, but like vampire style. He's that guy. He knows everything and anything and everything about vampirism. It's hilarious. He's such a character. Like it's obvious why Van Helsing is one of the most classic, classic monster characters there is. So he does get bit later on, Van Helsing does, by Baron, and then he ends up burning his bite with a iron rod, which is something I never heard of, but again, like I said, him knowing everything about vampirism, obviously he would know exactly what to do after getting bit, because I thought he was screwed. I was like, oh geez, are they going to just kill him off that fast? Not that fast, but are they going to kill off a character this big? I knew they wouldn't, but I didn't understand how they were going to bring him back either. Are they going to keep him a vampire, or is he going to turn evil in the next films? Who knows? But no, he fixed his situation pronto. And yeah, that's about it. That's how the plot of the film goes, really. And the rest is your classic Hammer atmosphere with your classic Hammer battles. The battles are always great with the music, and like I said, this one amps up the tropes of Hammer in a really positive way. The only thing this film is missing really is Dracula, but you get a shit ton of Eastern European brides they call them, of Dracula, and there's a lot of them, and they all do a great job. And there's some really memorable scenes in here too. That's some that I've already mentioned. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. 1960 was this release. The Technicolor looks fantastic. I've always wondered if I would not like Hammer films as much as black and white films because of the classic feel of them, but no, the Technicolor is fantastic. It really adds to the atmosphere. It doesn't take away from it like I thought it would. But yeah, this is the second in the Dracula series, and came out pretty much right at the beginning of the Hammer Horror series releases altogether. But a lot of fun. It's definitely worth picking up. Scream Factory just released it. I think this is their latest Hammer Horror series release. I think they had Kiss of the Vampire before, which I still need to get to, but Kiss of the Vampire, from my research, I don't know if it's connected to the Dracula series. I have to, like, it doesn't say it is. I think it's its own separate thing, but we will talk about that when we get to it. And that's my latest Hammer Horror film review. So obviously there's more coming. There's a shit ton to get to. I'm still loving them. I've heard of them, but I really just discovered them like this year, really. 2019, I'd say 2020 is when I started to actually, 2020 mostly, when I actually started to watch them and give them a fair shot. And they exceeded my expectations, that's for sure. I expected great, but they exceeded that. So that's my review, and until next time, it's been a pleasure. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like these reviews, and I will see you next time. Cheers.